Sherm Chester with you on this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum podcast. And again, it's a notebook edition because we've got a lot of things to talk about, and we'll keep it short today. Want to talk about, of course, basketball and hockey here in the Seacoast, and we'll talk about what's going on in the NFL and some news from Fenway Park and Major League Baseball. But I want to start this program off with a topic we touched on in our last podcast, the one with Jay Pinsino. I brought up a track star for the Exeter Bluehawks, and this lady and her team doing great things lately. But we've got one superstar that I hope has Olympic potential at some point in her career. Exeter High School junior Lexi Paterna. I was browsing through seacoastonline.com, and I noticed that they had an article. She won the 2-mile at the MSTCA Northeast Invitational Tournament last Sunday at the Reggie Lewis Center, and she set the meet record in the 2-mile. She had a time of 10 minutes, 26.54 seconds, and according to her coach, Laura Smith, that reestablishes her time as the fastest 2-mile time here in the United States. And her sister Bree came in fourth in the event. Her time was 11 minutes, 17 seconds, 0.52. This is a great team this year, and I've got to get to Laura Smith and chat with her, and hopefully we get some of the team members, including Lexi, to come on board with us. And also at that meet for the Bluehawks, Maddie Poteet came in third in the 1,000-meter, and Izzy Brummer in the 600 came in fifth. And the 4x200 relay team, Avery Kerrigan, Molly McBride, Grade McElroy, and Emma Rader, and they came in fourth place in that 4x2 event. In the boys' competition, it was the Winnicott Warriors. Owen Janados came in first in the 300. Ryan Jameson came in third in the 600 and eighth in the 55 hurdles. And then taking a look, Portsmouth High School, they had 4 individual events that they won, 2 relays on their way to a win, and the 12-team meet that was at the University of Southern Maine over the weekend. I want to get in touch with Laura Smith and talk to the members of that girls team, in particular, Lexi Paterna. I think there's some Olympic potential there for sure. I want to shift gears. Instead of starting with basketball for the next segment, let's go to hockey, boys and girls hockey. The Exeter Bluehawk boys picked up a big overtime win over the Pinkerton Astros last weekend, and that hopefully will get them some momentum going. So upcoming next for the Exeter boys Bluehawk hockey team, the Trinity Pioneers, who right now are undefeated. And then they play Bedford, the Bulldogs, and then they will be traveling to Hanover for a road game. Let's take a look at the girls' side of things. The Exeter Bluehawk girls right now are at 3-2 on the season. They have a game coming up against Oyster River Portsmouth, also against Concord, and then the combined Manchester Central Memorial West team in the future for them. Right now, as far as standings are concerned, let's take a check for the boys first. In Division I, Trinity, again, undefeated 5-0, Concord 5-0, Pinkerton 5-1. That loss, again, was an overtime loss to the Bluehawks. 4-2 for Manchester Central West Memorial, that combined team at 4-2, Keene at 3-2. And Bluehawks, again, 1-4 at this point of the season. The Portsmouth Newmarket Sanborn team at 0-4-1. That's Division I standings for boys hockey. Division II standings, it's Balding. The Red Raiders, still undefeated, 6-0. The Dover Green Wave at 5-2. St. Thomas Aquinas at 4-2. And Somersworth at 4-2. That's the Somersworth Co-Brown Co-team. Oyster River 4-2. Winnicott, the Warriors at 3-3. And for the hockey standings for Division I girls, it's Oyster River Portsmouth at 7-0 right now. St. Thomas, Winnicott, and Dover at 6-1. Lebanon, Kearsarge, and Mascoma 5-1. And looking down the list here, it is Concord 5-3, and right behind them, Exeter with a 3-2 record. All right, now basketball, boys basketball. I, first off, want to preface this by saying I've seen a couple of games over the past couple of weeks involving the Exeter Bluehawks. They surprised the Wyndham Jaguars. They played what I consider one of the best games I've seen them play, this season in particular, but in a long time as far as defense and everything was going right. They put Wyndham in a position where they had to keep heaving 3-point shots up, and they weren't going in. And luckily for the Bluehawks, they had somebody under the basket to get the rebounds. So it worked in their favor. They had a blowout win over the Wyndham Jaguars, which I think was a surprise for even the Bluehawks. They figured they had a tough go, but it went in their favor. A very easy win after all. Then they played the Dover Green Wave. Now, I was not able to be at that game, but I got to watch the game, and things just fell apart. And Dover gave the Bluehawks a beating on last Friday night. Then taking a check on to the game we just finished against the Nashua North Titans, I have to admit, I was surprised that we had a challenge from the Nashua North Titans. They came out ready to play, and the Bluehawks were putting up a lot of shots that weren't going in, and it looked at one point like it was going to be a defeat for the Bluehawks. At 4 minutes left in the first half is when the momentum shifted in favor of the Titans, and it was with 4 minutes left in the game. That's when the momentum shifted back to the Bluehawks, and they came up with the win, 65-60 over the Nashua North Titans. But they've got a lot of tough basketball coming up. The next 3 games for the Bluehawks will be on the road: Bedford, Trinity, and Bishop Girton, in that order. The next home game won't be until the 27th, when they take on the Spalding Red Raiders. So we'll see how they do on the road. One thing I will say, I'm frustrated. I love the defense they played in the Wyndham game. Things just weren't right in that game against the Dover Green Wave. They lost that one 61-47. And it seemed like they were taking a lot of desperation shots, especially at the end of the game. And in the game I saw most recently against the Titans, they were putting up a lot of fadeaway 3-pointers, and it drives me nuts. If you've listened to this program, you know I'm not a fan of 3-point shooting in high school basketball. It becomes a problem, especially when a team is down at the end of the game. They start to get desperate, and usually their hot gun decides he's going to put up, or she, in the case of the girls, put up a lot of 3-pointers to make up the difference real fast, and it usually blows up in their face. I hope, I hope that game against North, the Titans, was a wake-up call for the defense, which they did play at the end of that game for the Bluehawks, and that they just try to get under. I wish there was more of and they've got some big guys. Get those guys in. Drive the lane or be under and take one for the team, and hopefully you score the bucket and you get a free throw to boot. Take one and go for a 2+1. That's frustrates the heck out of me. And it's not just the Bluehawks; it's high school. I mean, the Wyndham Jaguars were taking a lot of 3-point shots, and that was their undoing, because in that case the Bluehawks were there to get the rebounds. So you can live and die by the 3-point shots, folks, and I'm just not in favor of 3-point shooting. Now, that's the boys' Division I. The standings in Division I boys basketball. Let's give you that. The Bedford Bulldogs are 7-0. The Portsmouth Clippers keep rolling on, 7-0. Pinkerton 6-2. Trinity 5-2. Exeter 5-2. Alvern 4-2. Merrimack 4-2. And down a little further on the list, we looked at the Winnicott Warriors, and they're at 1-5 right now. We get to play them in a couple of weeks, and that will be a homecoming game at Winnicott, or at Hampton. Girls basketball in Division I, it is the Concord Christian team at 7-0, the Clippers at 6-1, the Bedford girls at 5-1, South at 5-1, Salem 5-1, the Bluehawks 5-2. So they're in the thick of things and having a good season so far. So, again, I haven't watched a lot of the girls' contest. I will be honest. But the boys, it's the 3-point shooting that drives me nuts. I'm old school. I like to see inside basketball, especially if you got big guys that can go in and crash the boards or take it up, drive the lane, take one for the team. Hopefully it goes in around the rim and in, and a foul is called, and you get to go for one more. So 3 points that way. A 3-point shot that way is fine by me. But that's just my own opinion, and I know, but I'm sticking to it. Now, the Bluehawk girls, they'll be at home for 2 games, Bedford, the Bulldogs, and the Girton Cardinals. And then they will be on the road for 3, taking on the Red Raiders at Spalding, the Warriors at Winnicott, and also Nashua North on the road. That's the first game in February, the first week in February. Winnicott Warrior game is going to be a boys-girls doubleheader. That's what they do, the varsity doubleheader. That will be coming up on the 30th. So we'll end the month of January with that rivalry contest. Okay, or pluralized contests. We're going to move on to football, pro football. Some real great football, wild card football, and it was wild. A lot of those games went right down to the wire. I don't think anybody was surprised by what we saw. So the games this weekend, again, Patriots coming through in their contest against the Chargers. Drake May, again, proving he's the real deal. The defense doing their thing, keeping the Chargers contained. So they'll move on to the Houston Texans, who had their way with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll get to that in a minute. Buffalo Bills, they came through. Cinderella season of Jacksonville is over, so they get the privilege of taking on the bye team in the American Football Conference, and that, of course, was Denver Broncos. So that's the two matchups this weekend, Buffalo at Denver, Houston coming here to take on the Patriots. On the NFC side of things, it was a good contest between Carolina and the LA Rams. I think I said it last week. I didn't think Carolina really had much of a chance, but they put on a good charge at the end of the game, and they came up a little short, but it was a contest, so that's all you want. Let's look at the other bracket. That was San Francisco and the Eagles, and the 49ers were not favored going into that game because they were playing in enemy territory, Philadelphia. And son of a gun, they played their hearts out. And then the other game on the other side was Green Bay and a classic matchup with the Bears, the Chicago Bears. What a game. I mean, I have to admit I tuned out of that game because it looked like it was just going to be a blowout, that the Packers were going to just please the cheeseheads, and that was the end of that. But it wasn't to be. The Bears came through. The Bears played a real great contest and came up on top of the Packers, so they get the privilege of taking on the LA Rams this weekend. That's a 2 seed. They're the number 2 seed. LA is a 5 seed. And then at the top of the bracket, the team that had the bye in the NFC, that's the Seattle Seahawks, top dog. They'll be taking on number 6, San Francisco. So whoever wins that one, obviously, in my opinion, is going to be in the Super Bowl. That's just my pick. Seattle, their defense is great. Their offense isn't too shabby either. San Francisco, they pulled it off against the Eagles, so they're a tough team. They've proven they can do it, and they want to play at home in the Super Bowl. That's their incentive. So that should be the contest to watch in the NFC. But I'm still picking my Bears on the other end over the Rams. And then on the AFC, let's go to that. We've said it earlier in another program that the Buffalo Bills, they were favored going into the season to be in the Super Bowl, if not Kansas City. I think people thought Kansas City was getting a little old, and then it was the Bills' chance this year. And the Bills didn't really play up to the potential, but then they got into the tournament, which is what you want to do, and you have to prove yourself. If they beat the Denver Broncos, they're the team to watch out for. Even, I know it sounds, because I know the Patriots are on the other side, and they'll be playing the Houston Texans. And the Texans are going to be tough. That defense is tough. I think they can be had. I love Josh McDaniels, Mike Vrabel. They know their stuff, and Drake May seems to be able to deliver, so this should be a great contest. And I'm rooting for a Buffalo Bills-Patriots matchup for the rights to go to the Super Bowl. And again, on the other side, it'll have to be Seattle and the Bears. And I know if it's a fantasy on my part to see the Patriots and Bears recreate a Super Bowl from 40 years ago. We'll see. A lot of good football still to come. But the biggest news, I guess, was the Monday night game. That was the game where the Houston Texans just beat up on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it was probably the end of the line for Aaron Rodgers. And it was definitely the end of the line for Mike Tomlin, their coach. He's been with them for 19 years. He took over for Bill Cowher. And he just, I guess, decided that was it. He went out on his own terms. He decided that it was time to move on. And I think from what I understand, he might just take some time off, but he also has been invited already by all the networks to join one of their talking head groups or be a commentator in one of the broadcasts. So we'll see where he goes there. He was the longest serving coach in the NFL at 19 years, 19 seasons. So it's going to be a change. I think that was a surprise in a way that Pittsburgh, people figured he'd hang in there for one more season. As far as Aaron Rodgers, it's time to hang him up, Aaron. Time to hang it up. And he will be in a booth somewhere. CBS, I guess, has already offered him some money to go and join him, and good luck. So much for the big news in the NFL. And Major League Baseball, bulletin. People were mad because Alex Bregman signed with the Chicago Cubs. He had a guaranteed contract that would give him a no trade, and the Red Sox were going to give him a fewer bucks by about $10 million, I guess, but they wouldn't give him the no trade, and I guess that made the difference. So he's with now a Chicago Cubby for the next 6 years, 6 years, whatever it was, the contract he signed with them. But the whole point is, third base is now open. So whether Marcelo Meyer is going to be the third baseman, we shall see. Bichette is still out there. A lot of speculation that the Red Sox will go after him. But he's not going to play third. He's going to play second. And I don't think that's going to happen. My own personal feeling, Bichette's staying with Toronto or he'll go somewhere else. He will not go to the Red Sox. But the Red Sox picked up more pitching. They got Ranger Suarez. Got him on the free agent market, and they signed him up for 5 years and a bunch of money. And he's a lefty who's very crafty. I'm kind of impressed with the only problem now is, and you hear this about the batting order for the Red Sox being too left-handed. Well, guess what? Now we got another lefty pitcher. So you got Crochet, Suarez. It's a 1-2. Probably number 3 will be Sonny Gray. And then number 4 will probably be Brian Bello. And then you got Conley Early, who really impressed me. And I hope he is the 5th man, but you've got other options as well. So how they balance out the rotation, lefty-righty, that's going to be interesting too. And whether or not they're willing to go out and spend for a third baseman, there is a chance that that'll happen before spring training. So Truck Day is February 2nd, and spring training is just around the corner. So first official day for spring training, when pitchers and catchers are supposed to be there, that's February 10th. The full squad workout, that's February 15th. So baseball is almost here. We still got some winter to get through, which brings me to my 2-minute drill. I just want to say I missed my first basketball game at Exeter High School in years. I mean, I don't know how many years. I caught whatever this is that's going around for a flu. And believe me, this flu that's going around is bad. So if you haven't had a flu shot, please get a flu shot. I don't like being sick. I don't think anybody likes being sick. And I don't like seeing people sick. All right. So let's get it healthy. Let's get the spring. Let's get past this winter. Before we sign off, I just want to remind you, if you're enjoying the program, please pass the word. We're on all the major podcast platforms. If you have a comment, question, maybe a potential guest, hey, we're always open to hearing from you. Seacoast Sports Forum at yahoo.com. That's how to get in touch with us. And don't forget our sister program, the Seacoast Forum. And I think it's an interesting program. Yours truly and Bill Taylor, we get together and talk about pop culture things. And we got a new program coming out in the next week or so. And it'll be fun. We talk about just topics of lighter note, okay? Music, movies, TV, trivia, whatever. It's just fun stuff. The Seacoast Forum, our sister program, that's also available on all the major podcast platforms. So this is Sherm Chester, inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum podcast.